Welcome back to Tangible Wellness, the podcast where I meet you exactly where you are. And today's episode is titled The Slow Burn: Why You're Gaining Weight Without Doing Anything Wrong. And the inspiration behind this podcast is I've noticed in the corporate wellness space with working with employees is a constant state of fatigue, belly fat that just no one can seem to lose. And I want you to think about something for a second. You go to work every single day, and you may not be eating fast food every single meal or drinking soda all the time, and maybe you've even switched to diet soda to try and improve. You've got a gym membership, you take the stairs when you can, and yet something has shifted. Your clothes are fitting a little bit differently, your energy is not what it used to be, and the number on the scale just keeps creeping up in one direction. And the most frustrating part is you can't seem to point to one obvious thing that you could be doing wrong. And that frustration is exactly what I want to talk to you about today. Because what I've seen working with employees in corporate wellness and with the increasing research is that the weight problem most people in their workspace are dealing with is not just one dramatic habit. It's something I'm calling the slow burn, which is something you'll get to know a little bit more here shortly. Number one is that your body is not built for what you're doing. This is an obvious one, though I promise is not as simple as you think. Most office-based employees, according to research, sit roughly 66% of their workday, and a quarter of that sitting time is in stretches longer than 55 minutes without a break. That's not a personal failing. That's just what desk jobs look like right now. But here's what most people don't understand about prolonged sitting. It isn't just that you are burning fewer calories in the moment, it's that your body's metabolic machinery starts to shut down in ways that a gym session later can't fully undo. Meaning you're sitting for prolonged periods of time, your body is designed to move. It's the only way that it can actually create energy and use energy. When you are seated for prolonged periods of time, your body cannot use energy like it's supposed to, nor can it create it. And there's actually a research study done by Healthline, which was a review of multiple studies, and it found that office workers may burn up to 1,000 fewer calories per day than people in physically active jobs like farming or construction. A separate review of 47 studies found that prolonged sitting was linked to negative health outcomes independent of how much a person exercised. Let me say that again. Exercise helps, but it does not cancel out what 8 hours of sitting does to your metabolism. And there's also another layer, especially in banking or financial services. The nature of your work involves concentration, problem solving, and a lot of pressure. And your brain is working hard, but your body is completely still. Again, when you sit for long stretches, your body becomes less efficient at processing fats and sugars. Blood flow can slow down, insulin sensitivity will drop, and your body begins storing, not burning, what it takes in. And the research also shows that each additional hour spent sedentary, the likelihood of developing metabolic syndrome increases by 39%, and type 2 diabetes risk increases by 22%. Now, I want to be careful here. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to help you see the mechanism. Because if you understand why it's happening, the solutions start to feel a lot more logical. Meaning you can take action. A lot of these are just behavior-based. If you find yourself sitting for prolonged periods of time throughout your day, get up and move every single hour for at least 5 to 10 minutes, whether it's going to get some water, get outside to get some fresh air, or take a few minutes to do some stretches. By you doing this, your body will, over time, create more sufficient amounts of energy on top of you exercising. Number two is the stress that doesn't feel like stress, but not the kind you recognize. When most people think of work stress, they picture a crisis, a huge deadline, a confrontation with a manager, a deal going sideways. That's acute stress, the kind that spikes and then it kind of resolves. What I'm talking about is something totally different, micro stress, the low-grade ambient pressure that just hums in the background of a corporate environment, the inbox that never fully empties, the meetings back-to-back, the sense that you always need to be on, and the constant cognitive load. None of that feels like a crisis, but your nervous system, it doesn't know the difference between a predator in the wild and an unread email at 4:45. It reads low pressure as a persistent threat, and it responds hormonally. Stress itself nowadays is not a tiger or a tribe. It is your email box. It is your meetings. It's your schedule. It's your project deadlines. It's those little bouts of pressure that you feel constantly. That is the thing that decreases your energy the most. And a 2025 research review published in the Research Journal of Pharmacology confirmed that sustained psychological stressors, things like job strain and financial pressure, can result in prolonged cortisol secretion and long-term metabolic consequences, including visceral fat accumulation. And a 2024 comprehensive review published in the Clinical Obesity confirmed that chronic exposure to elevated cortisol is increasingly linked to obesity development, specifically through the HPA axis, your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal stress response system. And so let's identify, what does cortisol actually do to your body? First, it signals your body to store fat, particularly in the abdominal area. Cortisol promotes what researchers call an obesogenic environment. It doesn't slow down fat burning, it actively promotes fat storage in the midsection. Second, it drives up your appetite, particularly for high fat and high sugary foods. Again, this is not a willpower problem. This is your stress hormone literally making you hungrier for the exact foods that feel comforting. And third, it promotes insulin resistance over time, which means your body gets worse at clearing glucose from your bloodstream, which means more of what you get stored rather than used. So every time that you eat sugar, instead of it being used in the muscle like it's supposed to, it is going to then get stored as visceral fat. So this is research that's been published in Stress, the International Journal of the Biology of Stress, and other peer-reviewed sources confirm that cortisol reactivity, even moderate, repeated stress responses, is a potent predictor of stress-induced eating behavior and increases in BMI over time. Meaning the more stress that you feel and accumulate, the more you are going to gain weight. And here's the kicker. You might be exercising and watching what you eat, getting decent sleep, and still seeing weight accumulate in your midsection because nobody told you that low-grade pressure of your daily work environment was quietly instructing your body to hold on to fat. This is why I talk so much about the nervous system and regulating your nervous system. It's not just a mental health strategy, it's a metabolic strategy. When your nervous system is in a chronic state of low-grade activation, your body is constantly preparing for a threat that never resolves, and that has real measurable effects on your weight and your health. So think of it like this. If you're bouncing from task to task, you're feeling stressed all throughout the day, jumping in a car, feeling stressed, worried about your finances, worried about your family, worried about the future, thinking and never really fully in the present moment or relaxing, your nervous system is on, which is putting your body at a constant state of stress. It might be acute and it might be micro, but that accumulates over time. And as it compounds, it's going to lead to metabolic dysfunction, type 2 diabetes, and eventually obesity. Now, there's a lot of times where we can talk about what are the best food choices that I can make during the day. Some are smart, and then some are not. So let's talk about this. This might surprise a lot of you. Most of the time, working with employees or the people that I've worked with are trying to make decent choices with their food. And they're not eating a bag of chips at their desk every day, but a lot of them have made one very common swap. Maybe from sugary sodas to diet soda. 0-calorie flavored waters, artificially sweetened coffee syrups, the no sugar version of things. And I completely understand it. That swap sounds like a smart and healthy choice. And for years, that's kind of what we were taught. But the research has shifted significantly, and I want to share what we're now seeing because this matters for everyone. In 2023, the World Health Organization reviewed the scientific evidence on artificial sweeteners and concluded that they do not help people lose weight. A 2024 study found that high consumption of artificial sweeteners is associated with increased risk of metabolic disorders, gut microbiota disruption, and somewhat paradoxically, weight gain. Research from Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in 2023 found that people who regularly consumed non-nutritive sweeteners had significantly different gut bacteria and higher levels of inflammatory markers compared to those who did not. So here's the mechanism that people don't fully understand. When you consume something intensely sweet, even with 0 calories, your body anticipates an influx of sugar. It releases insulin in response to the sweet taste, but the calories never arrive. This creates a mismatch that over time can disrupt how your body responds to real sugar, and it can amplify cravings for sweet and high-carb foods. And a 2024 review also found that consuming artificial sweeteners was linked to higher amounts of visceral fat. That's the deep abdominal fat we talked about in the cortisol section, and it's associated with increased gut permeability and systemic inflammation. So you thinking 0-calorie beverages or foods are good Inherently no, because what they do is they actually stimulate the same hormonal response without the actual weight of the calories or density. So it's setting you up for failure over time. And again, the research is not perfectly settled, but there are some studies that show neutral effects for certain sweeteners. But the trend in science is pointing in one direction, and that direction is caution. So what I would say is to never drink a diet soda or a sugar-free energy drink or not eat sugar-free candy. If you've made a lot of healthy diet drink swaps and you're still struggling with weight, especially around the midsection, this could be a contributing factor worth examining, meaning try eliminating it or reducing your consumption of it even more to see if it makes a difference in your weight loss journey. And when you combine Force 3, the sweetener disruption, with Force 1, prolonged sitting and slow metabolism, and then you also combine that with daily cortisol driving fat storage and cravings, you start to see how 3 individually small factors can create one really significant problem. So the main driver I want you to take home from today's episode is that if you've been frustrated that you're doing everything right and still gaining weight, especially in your midsection, there's a real biological reason for that, and it probably has nothing to do with your willpower or your discipline, because the slow burn is real, prolonged sitting is down-regulating your metabolism, low-grade job stress is keeping your cortisol elevated in ways that actively promote fat storage, and diet drink swaps or diet foods or sugar-free foods or the healthy processed foods, quote unquote, are disrupting your gut health and amplifying cravings rather than reducing them. And none of this is your fault, but all are within your ability to change, and starting with awareness. And so what I would ask of you is to take analysis of your energy. What is taking your energy? What food choices are decreasing the way that you feel, or taking you away from the way that you want to feel? Are you moving enough? Are you setting the appropriate boundaries with your work schedule? Are you saying no to things that take your energy? Because at the end of the day, to have more energy and for your metabolism to work efficiently, we need to be able to move sufficiently. And our body needs to be able to process the things, the information from food to words to information that we are feeding it consistently. And so 2 takeaway tips is to move more throughout your day. Get up from your desk every hour and move for at least 2 to 3 minutes, whether it's stretching, walking, something. Get up and move. Disconnect from the stress and reconnect with yourself. Number 2, is ask yourself simple questions when you're going to make a food choice. Does this food align with how I want to feel right now? Is this a food choice that I know is going to make me feel good? Go for simple, easy food choices. Whether it's protein, carbs, or fat, go for a whole food source. Your body doesn't have to work as hard digesting those foods as much as it does with processed foods. Give your body less information that it has to work on, and the more energy you will have. And also, I would say maybe an added one is saying no to food. You don't always have to eat. Your appetite is dysregulated from stress. And so just know that your stress levels could be driving your cravings. And so you don't always have to be eating. Say no when you need to. And overall, what we're learning is that it's more important about how well we can recover and how we can efficiently perform is determined by how well we can scale out our work every single day. So I hope this podcast episode was informative and helpful to you. If you have suggestions for a new idea for an episode, please leave them down in the comments below and let me know what you thought of today's podcast. If you have questions or need anything, please feel free to email me or contact me. And I hope all of you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you in the next episode.